Well, hello again everyone. It's time for me to give you an update on all my aquariums, my fresh, my salt, and my Lagoon aquarium. Let's take a closer look. But I'm coming to you today to tell you some losses I've had over the past summertime, even more so than the fall. And first we'll start with the main display. The losses have been in the main display. I lost my chalk bass. I may have had discussed that before. I don't know what happened to him. I actually been traveling not just the fall, but all through the summer so much that, you know, when you come home and you're only home for a couple of days and a fish is gone, there's no way to know what's happened, you know. And so first the chalk bass disappeared. I've had trouble with chalk basses in the past where they jump and get out of the tank that way, and I don't know if that was the case. The wonderful thing about him is I had actually had him for about a year or so, and he was definitely a good fish, a hardy fish, but when you're not home and you're not feeding every day, some of the basses require a little bit more intake, and you know, they'll start to get malnutrition if indeed somebody isn't giving a regular feeding. You can see I still have my lawnmower Blenny. I love my Blenny, he's fabulous. And I still have my Royal Rama, and of course my blue Tang has been pretty much my show fish right now. But I'm at the time where I'm looking to get some more fish. This is kind of the season where the holidays are coming and I'm home a little bit more. Well, not now, but after Thanksgiving I'll be home a little bit more, and I can really take a look at some new fish for the aquarium. But let's talk about the lights. As you know from past videos, I've changed up my lights and got the new LEDs, and it's been huge. Now of course I also have behind that, I have the T5s, and you can watch my light video more about that. But what's happened over the months since I've gotten it now is the changes in coloration in the corals. My Gorgonian is still gorgeous. It's been here with me for years, probably 10 years or more. Fabulous specimen for sure, and one that I got myself. I was going to say captured, but it's not hard to capture a Gorgonian. You just collect it like a plant, like any coral. And soft corals are allowable in the Florida. Hard corals are not, just in case you're wondering. But I love the Gorgonian because it gives you a wonderful display of motion and fluidity, if you will. And it's to me, it's probably one of my favorite things about my display that I'm proud of is my Gorgonian, and the flow and it, you know, it waving through the through the current, we'll say. But from the lights perspective, the corals have actually changed, not significantly, but they've changed their hue and tint under the different lighting that we've had, and I'm loving it. The Duncan there to the left has always been beautiful and always had a wonderful beautiful green hue to it, but it's actually lightened up and fluoresced a little bit better. Well, it's a matter of opinion, I guess, but it's I love the new the coloration of it. And then also the Blastomusis is it used to be kind of a darker reddish meteor color, which I loved. but my blue tang, he's just hamming it up, I think. But now the Blastomusis has gotten more of a pinkish to it. Hopefully, you know, color in when you do a film and then you edit the film, and sometimes it's hard to get the white balanced and show the colors as you see with your eye. I'll do my best at that if I can. The frog spawn is very healthy, doing well, but I noticed under the new lights it's not as extended, or I don't know, it's healthy, but it, you know, it's just not as fluffed up and extended as it was in the past. And I'm wondering if it's at the point where it's getting too much light. So I'm thinking of maybe moving this around a little bit where it gets into the shade. Maybe I'll just take a piece of it. Actually just gave away a piece. If you're thinking it's shrinking, well, it's not shrinking from dying off. I just gave away a little piece. But maybe I could take this piece to the right, put it in shade. If it reacts in a favorable way, I'll begin to move it. Oh, and I was talking about the Blastomusis. I think also the same thing. It's kind of shrank down. It's got really nice color now, but and I think it looks like it's split off into a few more heads, but it's shrunken to the point where I think it too wants less light, and so I think I pushed that one in the shadow. And my blue zoos are doing great. As always, they are already in the shadow, so I'm thinking of moving things around, I guess is what I'm saying. And then unfortunately I didn't really clean my tank, but I got these star polyps here, these zoos down below, and they're doing well too, but unfortunately the front of the glass is a little dirty right in front of it. Sorry about that. But they're doing well, and I'm looking to see where I can go with that. The struggling brain coral in the back, which we had talked about in previous videos, is actually looking much better, and I'm so pleased to see good results. And you can see some spotting on the glass. So I'm not getting the best video recording, but and then the zoanthids have been brilliant on the rocks, and they are right now under kind of full exposure of the lights. So over here we got some more zoanthids, and then if we want to talk some more, we can talk about the bubble coral, which has been phenomenal. It's huge, and it's just the coloration of it's changed. There's a more pinkish hue to it. Very pleasing. Very happy with that. That bubble coral. And then one of the wonderful things is, I thought, as you could see, I took away that ledge I used to have. It was monopore, the green monopore. I lost it a year or so ago. I talked about that loss, and I thought I lost my Superman, which is another type of monoporal. But you can see that Superman, I only had a couple spots of it, and now those spots the size of a pencil eraser head have grown considerably. The one up front, and then there's another spot that's got the size 3 inches in diameter or more. I don't know if I can get back closer to it, but it's taken over in the area behind the back side of the tank, so it's not right out in the visible range, but it's wonderful that is looking great. It's doing good with these lights. Got the nice pinkish red with the blue polyp mouths, and really good. If you're wondering what this orange is, this particular live rock, when I removed the monopore ledge that I used to have here from previous videos, if you remember, I flipped it over So this is upside down, and sometimes you get these strange sponges and other kind of growths on the bottom side of rocks. And and actually this orange stuff is what once was on the bottom, and it's been that way for months. So you know, if I pull in a little bit on it, whether that's sponge or I'm not sure actually what kind of life it is. But that's the saltwater aquarium. I back off, and then we'll move on to my Lagoon aquarium here and discuss that for a little bit. Now, as we move over into my Lagoon tank, I did want to mention that besides the chalk bass, lost that, and also lost the big eye squirrelfish in the main display. And so those were the two losses I've had in the last few months. And then over on the Lagoon tank we're looking at now, the butterfly fish is doing wonderfully. However, the tank itself was a complete muddled mess. Several months ago, I think it was the middle of the summer, we got to the point where we had a algal bloom, and the whole tank was like green soup. And it was that thick. I mean, it was incredibly bad. And I just I'd come home from work one weekend and everything was green. I did a massive water change. Even after the water change, it you know, it was still terrible looking, but you know, it cleared up. It cleared up for a day, and I got on an airplane, was gone for a week. The next weekend was back to being completely green again. This went on week after week, 3 weeks straight, and I was doing water changes, you know, 50-75%, well, pretty much 75% of the water each weekend. It's quite a chore. By the time I got through 3 weeks, I decided to completely remove, about 90% of the chlorpa was removed, only with leaving less than 5% of it, and full water change. Now you see the chlorpa is still here. It's grown back. So now I got fresh leaves of chlorpa, and it's growing back, not to the extent that it was, but eventually after, like I said, 3 weeks, then after about a month, it didn't actually clear up any better. It got to where hair algae took over, and that ended up being really bad, slimy. Hair algae, I'm thinking, yeah, probably a little bit of that, but not, yeah, hair algae, and eventually that turned into the brown slime. And I'm telling you, I can't express, I really wanted to do a video in the midst of it all, but it's such an embarrassment. And so I am capturing now a little bit of how terrible it was, but really this is beautiful compared to what it was. And I went through weeks of a brown slime everywhere, and was doing water changes, and the hair just it was pretty easy to pull out though, and it's only been getting a handle on it just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's not crystal clear now, and I still got a little bit of left over, but hey, I came out the other side. But what's absolutely amazing is this butterfly fish. I mean, he hasn't missed a beat, survived through it all. And one of the things I decided to do was You know, I just had a small hang on the back outside filter on this, but so I had replaced that with this much larger one, and I did that, oh, let's see, about 2 weeks ago, and that's been really nice. So I got the much larger hang on the back. I still have LED lights on there, and well, lighting I think may have something to do with it, because this first lamp here is a coral lamp, and the second one is not for corals, and it's LEDs, but it's got reds, blues, and green LEDs that are, I was hoping would be good for the Chloropa, but may be a cause of trouble. So anyway, to be honest with you, I'm bringing you, and if you look back in that sponge, you still see remnants of how nasty and terrible this tank was. But hey, it's, you know, it's still here, and it's still gonna end up in the long run a nice tank. And it just goes to show you how these Klein butterflies are very good butterflies to have. If you're looking for one, you can't have them with coral. I found that out. I had this one in my tank, my main display, and after about a day, he was eating up on my Duncan, and I had to take him out. The Duncan has recovered, but I took him out immediately and put him in this tank. So you may know that story already. So, okay, let's move on to my freshwater tank. But that's the honest truth on that, and I think it's always good and beneficial for people to know. I mean, that's the beauty, I think, of YouTube and the web and the community, is to know our failures as well as our successes. So, is this a failure? It's part of the story of a success. Let's look at it that way. Now, on to the freshwater tank. About the same time, my Lagoon tank was going through the algal bloom, and the water turned green, and for weeks on end. The freshwater tank was also going through an algal stage. Of course, the water didn't turn soupy or green. The water was always nice, but the algae came in and just got on all of the plants, and you can still see that it's on there quite extensively, covering the plants, the rocks, and just overall ugliness, and eventually going on into the hair algae stage, which overran the tank like crazy. Now I know Corey, one of our YouTube and freshwater shoppers, you know, always promotes that algae is a sign of good health, and that may be fine, but nobody likes the unsightliness of it. And of course, it overtook the Java fern, and I just ended up, like many people do, end up pulling out most of the Java fern to the point just to clear it out. And if you listen to what I was telling you with the Lagoon tank, I was gone all through the weeks, and I was spending so much effort on just recovering the Lagoon tank by doing the water changes. I didn't really bother doing anything about this complete hair algae takeover. It killed off the water sprite that was the taller plants in the back. You see it's all bare there now, they're gone. And then some of the other plants that I had brought in, ended up taking them out too. But my nicest plants are still here, and actually are still kind of healthy, other than having plenty of algae on the leaves. But here's the great thing. I mean, I did do some water changes on this tank, not too much, and it's just cleared up on its own and has been looking nicer and nicer and better as the weeks go on. And so eventually everything started to balance out. Hey, look, there's a shrimp. There's a shrimp in there. I put this shrimp in here a couple months ago before the whole algae thing happened, and never seen him again and forgot he was even in here. In fact, I thought he didn't survive, and here I am, even as I'm talking to you, seeing him for the first time. Even the day I put him in, I couldn't spot him. And there he is. But this tank it's a beautiful freshwater tank. I'm really enjoying it. But I gotta tell you, it did go through about 3 or 4 months into the start of the tank. I did go through that algae phase. It lasted for a good month or more, and I'm on the other side of it now. And even though things aren't as beautiful as I hope, I mean, the tank is healthy, the fish are doing great, and I'm very pleased with it. And now I think it's time for me to get a hold of Corey's shop and order a few more plants. And I got some ideas for that. So really enjoying the tetras and everything looking so beautiful. They're getting big and fat and very healthy. There's a little bit of I'm moving the camera around because I'm trying to get the glare off of there, but as you remember, I have the Phoenix 24/7 light on this tank, and it's been pleasant. But not being familiar with freshwater keeping, being a marine keeper for so many years, you know, I don't have anything to compare the Phoenix 24/7 with, but you know, as far as I can tell, it's doing well for the tank. And there you have it on that. So I've had my struggles over the summer and into the fall, and now coming on the other side of it. I'm hoping to have happier days. But all said and done, I'm looking to buy some new fish for the main display marine aquarium. I still need to get some other fish to accompany my butterfly fish in the Lagoon tank. And I think I'm pretty happy with what I have in this tank, other than getting some new plants. And maybe once I see that plants are growing and everything's doing well in this tank, I may consider some other fish. Although it's pretty well stocked, I have lots of fish in here now. I just only have 2 species of fish. If you remember, I put some wild fish in here. I don't know, they end up not surviving. That was just 2 little minnows I got out of the local lake. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed hearing what was good and what was not so grand. But it's all part of starting up new tanks. And everybody has to go through it. You start a new marine tank or a freshwater tank, you got to go through the phases, kind of a pioneer phase to a mature phase in water quality and plant growth, and just overall breaking in the biodiversity of life. And I don't know when I'll get back with you again, but have a good one.